The night feels like home to me when the world finally softens its voice. Moonlight resting on quiet streets, like a familiar patient choice. I don't hide when the daylight fades. I open, I listen, I stay. Some hearts learn how to shine only when the noise moves away. They say the moon is lonely, drifting with stars nearby, but I see her holding her ground in the middle of the sky. Not every light needs a crowd, not every glow needs a name. Some things are meant to be felt, not called the same. I don't chase the sun, I understand the night, and the moon knows my rhythm even when I don't try. I move with the moon through the silver and blue. She doesn't explain herself, and neither do I need to. If the night feels like home to me, that's enough to say.
Before we begin, I want to share something with you. I wasn't planning a new moon reading. In fact, I reached for these decks without any specific intention. But as the cards began to appear, one after another, they started telling the same story. Trust, balance, transformation, evolution, protection, and sometimes that's how these readings arrive. Not because we force them, because they insist. So if you found this video, maybe there is a reason. Maybe this message found its way to you exactly when it needed to. The Gemini New Moon reaches its peak on June 15th, depending on your time zone. Many people think New Moon energy lasts only a couple of weeks. Its influence often unfolds over the next 6 months, until the full moon in Gemini completes the cycle, which is November 24th, 2026. This is the beginning of a conversation with yourself, a new chapter, a shift in perspective. And what I find beautiful is that every card in this reading seems to be asking the same thing. Can you trust who you are becoming? The first card that arrived in this reading was Ring Around the Moon, Protection. And I love that this card appeared first, because before we talk about change and growth, this card wants to establish something important. You are safe. Not that life is perfect, not that there are no challenges, but safe enough to move forward, safe enough to trust yourself, safe enough to stop living as though every step must be guaranteed before it is taken. The card speaks about being protected while moving through a challenge, about being guided towards something connected to your life purpose. And I think that is exactly what this reading is about, because many of you watching already feel something changing. You may not have words for it yet. You may not fully understand where it is leading, but something inside you knows that you can't remain exactly where you have been. And that's where Gemini New Moon energy feels so important. Gemini energy is associated with communication, learning, perception, and seeing things from different perspectives. But what I find interesting that Gemini also teaches us that two things can be true at the same time. You can feel uncertain and still move forward. You can have questions and still trust yourself. You can be changing before you fully understand what you are becoming. And sometimes that is exactly how transformation begins. Not with certainty, with trust. The image on this card reminds us of something beautiful. When a ring forms around the moon, it is created by a light passing through countless tiny ice crystals. The light is already there. The moon is already there. Because I don't think this reading is creating something new inside you. I think it's revealing something that has been there all along. A direction, a calling, a version of yourself that is slowly becoming visible. And then we see the Ace of Cups. The seeds of love you send out breathe fresh starts. I love this image because she is not chasing or forcing anything. She simply opens her mouth and releases stars into the world. To me, this feels like someone whose heart is beginning to open again. Not necessarily because another person arrived, but because hope returned. Because the future no longer feels closed. And I think this is important. Many people believe healing is something that happens overnight, but healing is much slower, quieter, when your heart becomes willing to feel again. And from there, we move into the Queen of Pentacles. This card feels grounded. She is not trying to become someone else or proving anything. She doesn't have to. She already embodies the energy she once hoped to become. And I think many of you underestimate how much growth has already happened. But the cards are showing me someone who has already changed. Someone who has become stronger, wiser, more balanced, more connected to themselves, even if they don't always see it. And then we have the Six of Pentacles. One of my favorite cards in this reading. This is the card of balance, giving and receiving, support and trust, action and rest, heart and mind. And what strikes me is that none of these cards are reversed. Not something that needs to begin, something that has already begun. And then we have the final oracle card. This card feels like a soul of the entire reading. I am evolving as a soul when I am. Just look at the image. Two snakes, one light, one dark, balancing each other. Just as Gemini reminds us that opposite energies can coexist. Just as life asks us to balance logic and intuition, movement and stillness, and above them, a butterfly. The universal symbol of transformation, not because it became something different, but because it became what it always meant to become. And I think that's why this card moves me so deeply, because it's not asking you to become someone else. It's asking you to trust who you are becoming. Because that's what every card is saying. Protection, embodiment, balance, evolution. You are not being pushed toward a destination. You are unfolding toward yourself. And for anyone watching this reading and wondering what this Gemini New Moon means for them, I think the message is beautifully simple. Trust. Not because you have every answer. Not because you can see 6 months into the future. But because something inside you already knows the direction. The mind wants certainty. The soul asks for trust. And this reading feels like a reminder that you are being guided far more than you realize. You are protected. You are evolving, and you are becoming who you came here to be. Take what speaks to you, leave the rest, and thank you for being here.